It's about to get lively at the AAC as the Mavericks welcome back their big man in the middle in the form of Dereck Lively II. We'll get you ready for tonight's game. Coming up next on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. What's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carrella. We, of course, are DLLS Mavs. Appreciate you joining us here on the pregame show on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here as well. You can do the same for our podcast, wherever you get your podcast for free. It is game number 77 tonight for your Dallas Mavericks as they welcome in Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks as the Mavericks look to get back in the win column after dropping their game on Monday against the Brooklyn Nets. We'll get you ready for tonight's game over the course of the next half hour. We'll welcome in our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato a little bit later on in the show to discuss what Jason Kidd had to say during his pregame availability on this wonderful Wednesday. Bobby Carrella, good to see you. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I'm actually very excited that Dereck Lively's back. I'm excited to watch this game. Got a bunch of high-quality big men on the floor for the Mavs and some young guys on the Hawks that are that are taking big steps forward. So this should be a fun game.
Should be a fun game. I see you already in the chat already, Ronald. I see you, Oscar, as well. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. That is the story for tonight's game, as again, game number 77 with tip-off at 7:30 p.m. at the American Airlines Center as your Dallas Mavericks, of course, at 37-39, 20-17 so far at the AAC. Welcome in Trae Young and the Hawks at 36-39, 17-20 away from Atlanta so far this year, with the Mavericks a 3.5-point favorite with the over-under at 239.5. Vegas anticipating a high-scoring affair tonight at the American Airlines Center. If you're going to be watching the game, you can watch it on KFAA Channel 29, WFAA, and also on Mavs TV as well. Let's get you set up for where both of these teams are coming into tonight's game. And, of course, we start with your Dallas Mavericks coming in tonight, ninth in the Western Conference, sitting a half game ahead of the Sacramento Kings, who are currently in action right now in our nation's capital, taking on the Washington Wizards, as the Mavericks are sitting a half game ahead of the Kings, and right now 2 full games ahead of the floundering Phoenix Suns right now, who are, of course, in 11. 2-2 in their last couple of games. Are in the last 4 games, I should say, are the Dallas Mavericks. Overall 4-6 in their last 10. Of course, coming off that loss on Monday night to the Brooklyn Nets. They're also coming into tonight's game 14-14 against the Eastern Conference, and so far this year 23-15 against teams below 500. They are home tonight before they get ready to go on the road for a baseball series back-to-back in Los Angeles on Friday and Saturday. 2 late tip-offs, Bobby, at 9:30 p.m. on Friday and Saturday as they go visit.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
The Wall in Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, California. That's later on this week before they welcome home Luka Doncic and the Los Angeles Lakers a week from tonight. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Hawks, 8th in the Eastern Conference, they're in a virtual tie right now with the Orlando Magic for the 7th seed in the East. So they're fighting for play-in positioning as well to try to host that 7-8 play-in game, which will be taking place here in a couple weeks. Atlanta 4-3 in their last 7, 5-5 overall in their last 10. They're coming off a loss last night against the Portland Trail Blazers at home. So the Hawks coming in on the second night of a home road back-to-back tonight against the Dallas Mavericks, something to watch for with Atlanta in terms of their energy level. So far this year, just 9-19 against the Western Conference, but they are 20-17 against teams below 500 so far this year. After tonight, they'll be back at home on Saturday and Sunday with a back-to-back against the Knicks and the Utah Jazz. That's our lead story coming into tonight, gentlemen, as the Mavericks have 6 games remaining on their schedule, with the Hawks coming in tonight. A big one if you're looking, of course, at the play-in standings. As we mentioned, the Mavericks a half game ahead of the Sacramento Kings are in action right now against the Washington Wizards If the Mavericks win tonight, they will maintain their spot in terms of the 9 seed. If they lose and the Kings win, though, the Kings will be back in the 9 spot. And remember, they also hold the tiebreaker over the Dallas Mavericks. But that's important because if you want the Mavericks to host the play-in game in a couple of weeks, they've got to be the 9 seed in order to host the Sacramento Kings. So, in other words, Bobby, this is somewhat of a big game tonight for the Mavericks when you start looking at the standings, knowing that there's only a handful of games left for the rest of the regular season.
I guess. I mean, I think, I feel like the real drama of the play-in race is kind of zapped now that KD's out.
Yeah, because Phoenix is not going to catch either one of these teams. Yeah, that's for sure.
And so it's just kind of like, all right, I mean, obviously hosting that one game is huge, but for your likelihood of advancing out of that game. But then you still have to go on the road and win anyway. So I don't know. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over whether they're 9th or 10th. But it's a big game regardless. I mean, losing that game the other night, dude, completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
Completely unacceptable to lose to that team. I can't even say no disrespect because that's pretty disrespectful. Disrespect intended to the Nets. That is a sorry team, and the Mavs blew it at home. They were up 10 in the fourth quarter, and they blew it. And they get Lively back tonight. Gafford should hopefully feel a little better. Still waiting for AD to look like AD. And hopefully other guys, Clay can bounce back and so on. But yeah, I mean, if nothing else for their form, like I guess at this point, even if you lose, it doesn't really matter. But I want to see them play well. They did not play well the other night.
No, they didn't. Of course, as Bobby mentioned, blowing that 10-point lead with 8 minutes left in that game, D'Angelo's Russell's and one with 1:16 left gave the Nets a lead that they would not relinquish and had a disappointing loss at home on Monday. Let's stay on that real quick because we've seen Anthony Davis's return. We've seen Daniel Gafford's return, which will feature a little bit later on in our Mavericks player spotlight. But Dereck Lively II coming back after been missing since January 14th. In fact, a number of games. You want to guess how many games that was that he had missed since he had been out?
40.
Close. 36.
Oh,
yeah.
Round up. Let's count one for me.
That's right. Let's count one for you. Maybe you can pick that on Sleeper, maybe. We'll see. 36 games that Dereck Lively II has missed. He's been out since January the 14th. What are you expecting from Lively tonight? As Jason Kidd mentioned during his pregame availability, Lively will be on a 15-minute restriction tonight. Also, Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford will remain on their minutes restrictions as well. He did not explicitly say that during his pregame availability, but that is the expectation that both Daniel Gafford and Anthony Davis will remain on the minutes restrictions that they are currently on. Now you can add Dereck Lively II to that as well.
It's a lot of restrictions, dude. Like it's got to all be scripted. But I think for Lively, like where I was most intrigued with him before the injury is that he was consistently switching off and defending guards. But with this being his first game action and only able to get out there for a few minutes, like I wonder if they're just going to play a very simple, kind of elementary, dumbed down version of the defense whenever he's out there, just to get his wind back, get your legs back. See if he tries to go for a dunk. Like Gafford went up hard a couple times, went up strong and threw down some dunks last game, and seemed to be fine on the knee. But with your foot, I mean, that's where you're bearing all that pressure and, taking the brunt of not only jumping but also landing. So I'm really curious to see how much he tries to fly around, basically.
Sure.
But we'll see. I mean, I'm not hoping for too much. I want to see him get out there and be healthy tonight. And then, if you're trying to win those games against the Clippers, that's whenever he's really going to need to kick it into high gear because he's going up against Zubats and those guys. Like, it's going to be a different level of physicality this weekend. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting, too, because not only do you have the game tonight, but you have the games on Friday and Saturday. Whether or not AD will be playing in the back-to-back on that Friday-Saturday is going to be interesting because now you've got some depth with your big men. You maybe can allow Anthony Davis to sit in one of those two games to allow these other guys to play, but that'll be something that we talk about a little bit later on as the week goes on. Let's focus in on the opponent tonight in terms of the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks come in led by Trae Young, who's been fantastic so far this year, averaging over 24 points per game and 11.6 assists per contest. That is number one in the association. In fact, in his last two games, Trae Young, 34 assists to just 6 turnovers in his last two games, including what was a 19-assist game on Sunday in a win over the Milwaukee Bucks. Defensively, they are led by Defensive Player of the Year candidate Dyson Daniels, the Great Barrier Thief is what they like to call him.
Good nickname.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
By the way, the Kings are down 9 right now to the Wizards. How much longer can we tell lies about the West being good?
I mean, let's put some respect on Washington for a half second. They did beat the Nuggets twice this year. So there's
All
that.
right. Mavs beat the Thunder 3 times.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can do a lot of this when it comes to the West and how they have played out so far this year. But that is interesting. As, again, we mentioned a little earlier, the Kings, if they win and the Mavericks lose, they'll be in the 9 spot. If the Mavericks win, they'll remain in the 9 spot anyway. But, yes, the great barrier, the Dyson Daniels, so far this year, averaging 3.1 steals per game. That is 1.3 steals more than the next guy on the list. Do you know who's number 2 in steals so far this year?
No.
Nikola Jokic.
I am?
Yeah, Nikola Jokic at 1.8 steals per game. Dyson Daniels at 3.1. He's got a total of 216 steals on the season, does Dyson Daniels. So you got to be careful with the ball around him, obviously. Anthony Davis leading the way for the Dallas Mavericks, averaging nearly 17 points per game, nearly 9 rebounds, and 1.4 blocks so far in 5 games with the Dallas Mavericks. Klay Thompson averaging over 14 points per game so far this year, shooting 39% from 3. Atlanta comes into tonight, one of the best scoring teams in the association, number 5 in points per game. Middle of the road when it comes to field goal precision, number 14, but they love sharing the basketball, as evidenced by Trae Young being the number 1 assist man in the league. They average 29.5 assists per contest. That's good for number 2 in the association. But conversely, they commit the 5th most turnovers per game in the association, committing nearly 16 turnovers per contest so far this year. But they are number 2 in steals per game, so a little yo-yo back and forth when it comes to dishing it, giving it away, but also taking it back with the fact that they are number 2 in the league in steals at nearly 10 steals per contest. Atlanta so far this year, number 20 in offensive rating, number 18 in defensive rating. These two teams playing each other for the final time this year, as the Mavericks won the first matchup way back on what was November the 25th in Atlanta, 129-119. Kyrie Irving that night had 32 points. PJ Washington had a double-double with 11 points and 10 rebounds. Najee Marshall had a big night with 22 points in the win as well, as the Mavericks look to sweep the season series for the 2nd consecutive year against the Atlanta Hawks. But obviously, this is a team in Dallas not only looking for a win tonight, but really an important when we start looking at the schedule going forward here. You got 2 games against the Clippers on Friday and Saturday, and then you get a few days off before you get the Lakers. Then you take on the Toronto Raptors, and then you finish up on the road against the Memphis Grizzlies. So if they want to be in position to have that 9 spot, they've got a difficult next 3 games with 2 of them on the road against the Los Angeles Clippers. What kind of energy level are you expecting from the Mavericks tonight, given the fact that they got off to a sluggish start against the Brooklyn Nets? Even though they led it after 5 after the first quarter, it felt like they just let Brooklyn hang around in that game, and eventually it bit them in that fourth quarter there.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's just no excuse to lose that game. Like, there's just no excuse to lose that game. It doesn't matter what they shot from 3. It doesn't matter what the Mavs shot from 3. You just have to win that game.
Yeah.
So I would expect – I mean, I would hope that they come out and play very PO'd. But the thing is, I mean, you know, they're still – without Brandon Williams, there's still one guard on the team that can consistently make plays, and that's Dinwiddie. And if Dyson Daniels spends any time guarding him tonight, it just becomes really tough to get anything going. You know, so – even if they're trying really hard, even if they lock in, even if they play good basketball, the offense could still look kind of weird. It could still look kind of tough. So they're probably going to have to win this game with defense, which is how they're going to have to win every game until Kyrie's healthy again, whenever that is. So, we'll see. But, yeah, I mean, I just the defensive communication was a big problem last game. And, the Hawks don't have quite the same level of spacing and shooting, I think, as the Nets, even as poor as the Nets are. Like, the Hawks generally much more go to the basket. But they do have Trae Young, who's a better playmaker than anybody that they've gone up against in a while. So the defense is still going to have to, mind its P's and Q's and all that stuff tonight. Otherwise, they could get sliced and diced.
Coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll welcome in our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato live from the American Airlines Center as he gets us ready for tonight's game as well. And a little bit later on, we'll focus in on our Mavericks player spotlight, looking at Daniel Gafford. But before that, let's help you win some money tonight when it comes to Sleeper.
My Sleeper pick of the game. It's got we got quite a few moving pieces in this one. Trae Young, more than 1 double-double. That dude is an automatic double-double. Daniel Gafford, I'm taking him for more than 11.5 points. Zaccharie Risacher. I need to pull up this pick. My eyesight is so bad. Taking him for at least 15 points. Dude is actually balling out of control lately. Spencer Dinwiddie, at least 6 assists, and Klay Thompson, at least 2 3-pointers made. This is a very complex pick for me. A lot of moving pieces, but on Sleeper, the more you pick, the more you win, all the way up to 100 times your money. My multiplier tonight is times 6.3, which means if this $5 pick hits along with the 15% payout boost, it would net me $36.
Whoa!
Making this my toughest, most potentially profitable pick of the year. If you want to play along, download Sleeper, use promo code DLS Mavs, play $5, get $55 in free plays anytime, and just go ahead and add 36 to that, because this one, I'm feeling good about this one, y'all. We're going to win.
Well,
We're going to win.
You know what I love to say, Bobby, when it comes to you and your Sleepers picks?
What's that?
Scared money don't make money.
You're damn right.
And you sound like you're going big tonight.
I'm going big. I just couldn't remember how big I was going.
Queso for
lots of queso.
like the whole office.
I'm so much like a drum, like a keg of queso.
He's like the Mavs tonight, like going big. How about that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm inspired.
You're
That's
inspired.
Right. I'm inspired
Lively's
by the
back.
Mavs. Yep.
All the big men are back. It was okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I was at the arena before our pregame show.
Very tall team.
Very tall team. Like seeing Gafford and Lively and Davis on the floor all at the same time, like actually getting ready to play a game. It just kind of reminds you this team is big as hell in the front court. Like they've got a really big front court. Not to mention you got Kai Jones obviously coming off the bench as well. He's still available as he's on his two-way deal. But you start looking at those guys on the floor, it's like, wow, defensively, this team, when they are healthy, can be really scary. Now, obviously, none of the three that are playing for the Mavericks in terms of their front court are 100% healthy. But when we saw two of them fully healthy, well, at least we thought, against the Houston Rockets, I mean, we saw what kind of defensive prowess that they had. Now, obviously, you got P.J. Washington, who's not going to be playing in tonight's game. But it just kind of reminds you that, man, this is a big, big team. And defensively, they can be potentially scary once they get fully healthy going forward.
Styles make fights, though, man.
Yeah.
And like that game against Houston was so good. I mean, they had a lot of energy, but also like Houston was trying them at the rim, testing them over and over again. But then, you know, granted, it was his first game back, and AD's still not moving like AD normally does, but, you know, they looked really slow against the Nets, and the Nets are just not good. And it wasn't just the two bigs. I mean, it's also Dinwiddie, who is not a starting guard. He's not a starting caliber defensive guard. Clay, at this point in his career, is like an average defender, if that. And then, you know, PJ's fine, Najee's fine, you know, like they're not like super duper freak athletes, you know. And so against a team like Atlanta, Trae doesn't necessarily drive looking to score. I would expect those big dudes could just gobble all his shot attempts up if he was looking to do that, but he's looking to drive and kick. He's looking to drive for the lob. So it's a different kind of test for those guys tonight. Hopefully they don't have to defend in space as much and close out on as many shooters.
Sure.
But if they do, I mean, we saw it with the Jazz, man. I mean, with Gobert, and Mavs did it to the Wolves. Like if you lean too much on playing too big, then what happens when I go small? You know, can you keep up with that? And if they can't, then it's gonna cost them. But we'll see if Atlanta can even make them do that tonight.
Especially when their bigs are not fully healthy. Trying to go small and then make them play when they're not fully healthy either can be a difficult task. Let's welcome in our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, live from the American Airlines Score. Cato, Tim, what's going on?
Hello, friends. Good to see y'all.
You too, man. Mavericks hosting the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Interesting matchup late in the season, but at the same time, the Mavericks still trying to maintain the ninth spot in the West to try to host that playing game here in the next couple of weeks. From your vantage point, what did Jason Kidd have to say in tonight's pregame availability?
Yeah, he talked a little bit about the second unit. That's something that we've been talking about on this show, just who runs the offense when Brandon Williams, obviously unavailable, until at least April 10th. So a few more games to play without him coming off the bench, without him coming off as a, kind of a focal point for the offense to, just know that there's a guy who can, get in the lane, beat a guy off the dribble. The guys who are replacing him are Najee, it's Max Christie, it's Jaden Hardy. And the main thing Jason Kidd had to say about that trio is don't turn it over. Dallas needs good shots. Out of those three players, I only remember one of those. Najee may have a turnover or two, but Jaden Hardy, especially if he's going to be trusted in those situations, like that's so important for him. It's obviously important for Jason Kidd. To continue trusting him, to continue putting him in those situations, even if to some extent Dallas really has no options at this point, especially, PJ not going to be available tonight. So the other thing he said is that, he thinks that group, especially the second unit when Spencer's not on the court, he thinks they will benefit from running from getting out in the break. And that's something that Atlanta does really well, second in pace this season. So, Jason Kidd, he literally said they're going to run with him. They're going to run with Atlanta. They're going to run with the Hawks. So that's obviously a way that if the, Spencer Dinwiddie is their best half-court offense creator, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And Anthony Davis can be a very good half-court finisher. But when you don't have those guys on the court, especially, transition, fast break stuff is a good way, to just kind of make up some of the margins and the edges that you're lacking from, players you would expect to have. But that's the main thing that stood out to me for Jason Kidd. And, especially as you think about no turnover, don't turn it over. It is interesting that, there's a lot of ball hawks, obviously led by Dyson Daniel on the other side. So easier said than done, but that was the main message.
Well, I'm particularly concerned with Hardy and Najee going up against Dyson because Hardy's just a little too loose. Sometimes he over dribbles, and crossing over between the legs. He's sometimes even sloppy, like loses the ball himself, let alone against a guy Daniels with a long wingspan. But then also Najee, the way that he beats guys off the dribble one-on-one is a lot of like 2 dribbles left, kind of like hesitation, half spin or full spin move where the ball is like going to be sitting there for a second, and Dyson is so good at anticipating that stuff. So I'm a little spooked.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
All right.
Let Max Christie run the whole thing.
I did want to ask you real quick, because Tim made an interesting point about Jason Kidd saying that he wants to run with Atlanta. Is that a good idea?
Yeah, why not, man? Why not?
I only ask that because you got big guys that aren't necessarily healthy, so getting in an up and down game with guys that aren't necessarily healthy, I don't know how much of
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you got a 3-on-3, 3-on-2,
yeah.
why wait?
Yeah. I'm just curious about that.
The idea,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, one of the obvious ideas, if you're playing with 2 bigs, you shouldn't have to commit as many bodies to the offensive glass. You should be able to leak out a little bit more confidently. That's not to say that it's just 2 bigs down there, but if you've got one guy leaking every time, if you've got 2 guys leaking opportunistically, and, as long as your bigs are near the rim, as long as, you haven't, completely cross-matched and everybody is wherever they are in the court, if your bigs are near the rim, send the nearest body should go get that rebound, should go help get that rebound. You never want to, have a defensive rebounding possession. You always want 3 guys trying to grab the board. But, that's how you create that kind of zone around the rim that you trust that basketball is going to carry them to you. But you should have a lot more opportunity to send 1 or 2 guys out in transition, in fast break, and have just more comfort that, even if, it's not always that they're going to be leaking out just running the go route. Just having a guy sitting at, the sideline, basically like at the scorer's table, right there inside, just have that quick outlet ready to go. I think that's a positive thing. I think Dallas can emphasize, if this is the way they're going to be playing. And now finally with 4 big men available, this is the biggest that they're going to be. This is the most that they're going to commit and fully, unleash, this idea they have of the 2 big lineup.
Let's look at the injury report for both these teams coming into tonight's game. We start with the Atlanta Hawks. Jacob Toppin, he's out tonight with the left shoulder soreness. Trae Young, he's available and good to go. He's been dealing with some right Achilles soreness. Jalen Johnson out with left shoulder surgery, and Clint Capella out with the ligament sprain. Meanwhile, for the Dallas Mavericks, we mentioned it, Dereck Lively II returning after missing the last 36 games with his ankle stress fracture. He is available and good to go tonight. It's been announced since January the 14th. He will be on a 15-minute restriction tonight for the Dallas Mavericks. PJ Washington, in addition to the injury report, he is out tonight due to illness, so PJ Washington will not be available for tonight's game. Caleb Martin is available as he continues to deal with that left hip strain, and Anthony Davis is good to go as he continues to deal with that left adductor strain. Daniel Gafford was not on the injury report at all for the Dallas Mavericks, so good news there for him as far as not being listed on the injury report. That gets us to our Mavericks player spotlight on tonight, and we focus in on one of the 3 big men in the middle, and we do so with the former Arkansas Razorback product in Daniel Gafford, who made his return to the lineup on Monday after missing the previous 21 games due to his MCL sprain. In fact, he had 17 points and 7 rebounds in nearly 19 minutes, going 7 of 9 from the field in his return for the Dallas Mavericks. My man this year averaging 1.8 blocks per game. so far this year. Still hasn't played enough games to qualify to be in the top 5 in terms of blocks per game. But prior to that, he has been fantastic. In fact, had a couple blocks in the first meeting against the Atlanta Hawks. And Tim, you just mentioned it. This is the biggest that this team has been all season long, obviously with the addition now of Anthony Davis. What are you expecting not only from Gafford, who's playing his second game back, but also from Dereck Lively II as he makes his return for the Mavericks tonight?
I mean, that's kind of the thing. This is the first time we're going to see it. I have some idea of how it's going to look, but I don't know if I'm expecting anything. I'm expecting to start to learn about this duo. Lively and Anthony Davis, the team's 2 best big men, expecting to learn about it, starting now, and expecting to see more how all these bigs can work together, see what the strengths are, see if there's, going to be weaknesses, going to be things that they're going to have to adjust to. So, I'm very curious. Obviously we just saw Brooklyn come in here and just bomb threes. I'm curious how Atlanta approaches this game. I'm curious, how Dallas just responds to a very lackluster performance where a lot of aspects were unusually bad for them. So I think that's where the that's where the intrigue is for all of this, and we'll see how it plays out.
Let's start looking at a couple of X factors going into tonight's game. Number one, Bobby, I'll start with you on this one. The Hawks are fantastic in transition. In fact, so far this year, 7th in the NBA in fast break points, averaging nearly 17 points in the fast break per game this year. This is a team that loves to pass and share the ball, but they also love to get out and transition, and something that I'm sure that they'll look to do tonight against the Dallas Mavericks, knowing how well they are and able to finish in transition.
Yeah, you get a lot of steals, you get a lot of fast breaks. Trae can pass. Okongwu gets up and down the floor. They got a lot of guys. They got a lot of athletes on their team. Now, granted, I mean, like Jalen Johnson being out basically all year, they should be even better than they are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, don't make mistakes with the ball, and if you do, then get back. But the other thing too is like this team right now doesn't have a whole lot of floor spacing, and so they're going to end a lot of possessions with like 2 or 3 guys right around the rim. It's a long way to go to get back. So every time you miss a shot, even let alone get a turnover, every time you miss a shot, there's a chance that they could 3-on-2 the other way. So it could be tough.
Yeah. Let's go to our next one real quick as we get ready for tonight's game. Again, you can watch the game on KFAA Channel 29 and on WFAA as well, Channel 8, and on Mavericks Television with the tip-off at 7:30 p.m. at the AAC. Tim, this one is really important. As we kind of talked about it in terms of the turnovers. We know that Atlanta averaging nearly 10 steals per contest so far this year, which is second in the association. You got to protect the ball against it. Not only it's from a turnover perspective, but they are able to convert off of the other team's turnovers as well. In fact, so far this year, number 6 in the NBA in points off of turnovers, averaging nearly over 19 points per game off opponents' turnovers so far this year. So they will make you pay as far as you turning the ball over as well if you're an opponent with their ability to finish on the other end as well.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you talk about running fast, playing fast, getting in transition, the single easiest way to, get an advantage is to capitalize off a turnover. And because Atlanta is good at that, because they do emphasize pace and tempo, just you can't turn it over against them. That is allowing a team to do what they do very well. And the more you enable them to do that, the tougher time you're going to have.
And last one for me, Anthony Davis hasn't been great over the last couple of games. I'm interested to see what kind of aggressiveness he comes out with tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. Especially, we saw what was the funny shot that he took in the fourth quarter against the Brooklyn. That's kind of a little short push shot.
His only FGA in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, looking to see the big man be a little bit more aggressive tonight to see if he can set the tone for this Mavericks team to get off to a good start against the Atlanta Hawks team that likes to get up and down the floor. Interested to see what Anthony Davis does tonight in the middle for the Mavericks.
They do not play a real 4. I mean, like a real, like with beef.
Yeah.
So AD will have a serious size advantage unless it's Okongwu on him, but then you got Gafford and Lively going up against someone that's much smaller than them. So Mavs need to take advantage of that.
Look out for the rookie Zaccharie Risacher for the Atlanta Hawks. I enjoy saying his name. I'm saying that a lot tonight. Tim, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on the pregame show. We will talk to you again on the postgame show here on DLLS Sportsman, man. Thank you.
See y'all then.
Bye, Tim.
That is our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato live from the American Airlines Center.
I'm surprised no one has commented on the fact that you and I are wearing the same color shirt.
I mean,
I wasn't going to bring it up if no one said anything.
I think
In the
they didn't
post-game,
say
at
anything
least.
because it's great fashion. Clearly, they enjoy
Yeah.
what they're
Or
saying.
they just they've come to expect it. We wear the same shirt like at least once a week.
Yeah, I don't know why you just won't just embrace it. Don't fight it anymore. It's fine.
I have so many shirts. How does this keep happening?
Because we're here, Bobby. We are here. Okay, we're here. That's where we are.
It's true.
Appreciate it, God Tanner. Make us look good and sound good as always. Appreciate you, sir. That's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Krell. I'm your host, Kevin Gray, his twin. We will be back here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show 15 minutes after the game. We'll be joined by our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, going to be on the program.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right. Mark Stein going to be on the show for our post-game show as well. So make sure you tune in with us here on DLLS Sports. Go find our podcast. Search DLLS Mavs on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast for free. Give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. And like and comment and subscribe to DLLS Sports. We'll talk to you after the game between the Hawks and your Dallas Mavericks. Y'all be good. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.